Hello there, and welcome, all of you beautiful nerds from around the world. I'm, of course, Josh, sitting down with Al Schuler. It's a Star Wars Sunday, and oh, baby, do we have some cool Star Wars stuff to talk about. It was just broke. This stuff just broke last night. There is reason to believe, a rumor out there, if you will, that because Lucasfilm and Disney did an oopsie, we might know that Hayden Christensen might be in Star Wars Episode 9. And we've got a bunch of other crazy news to talk about. I want to start today's stream by asking you, Al, have you seen, I have two questions for a two-parter, so take your time with this one. Have you seen all of the cool stuff that Ian McDiarmid and Hayden Christensen have been doing, like when they were at the Children's Hospital? And part two of that, what do you make of Disney canceling the panel that they were supposed to appear on, in which they would have maybe given spoilers to? What do you think about all of this?
Yeah, so I didn't see the specifics regarding their visiting children's hospitals. I know they've been doing like a lot of promotional stuff here lately, kind of on the down low, so to speak, a little bit. But I did, in fact, hear about the canceled panel that they had this weekend, and that's nuts. Like, if that's not an indication that we're going to see Anakin Skywalker in Episode 9, and I really don't know what is, man.
Yeah,
Because,
it's pretty tough, dude. Like that. Like, they keep doing this, right? They keep doing this, and it's fine. Like, I love it. Like, we're all for it, right? But what they keep doing is, in the name of protecting the integrity of the movie, in the name of trying to keep spoilers from being out there, in the name of, stopping the internet from going crazy with speculation, they do things that end up giving away more of the spoilers. It ends up showing their hand a little bit. So, like, for instance, when they had the article out there about Rey and the Vision right afterwards, right? So a lot of people were like, okay, this Rey Vision thing, it's probably a vision. And then they say, literally in that article, it's a vision, and then they change it. Now, they change it because they're like, hey, we don't want this out there. This is going to give spoilers away, whatever. But the thing about that is, them changing it made us all pay attention. We were like, whoa, they changed it? That must mean something. So again, it seems as though them canceling this panel is like the biggest sign that, yes, Hayden Christensen is going to be in Star Wars Episode 9. Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. The fact that, like I said, if there wasn't anything that they were trying to hide, then why would you randomly just cancel this event? The same weekend that the event's taking place.
Right.
It's got to be something that you're afraid of getting out. Either they weren't prepped, which I can't imagine that they didn't prep, Hayden Christensen and Ian McDiarmid, but something freaked you out. Something floating around this past week made you really decide at the 0 hour, we can't let this go on.
I know.
And that has to point to something that, they're trying to keep under wraps as much as they can for Episode 9. Why wouldn't that be Anakin? I mean, that makes perfect sense.
It makes perfect sense. Again, it's a pretty awesome situation. And we totally see you in chat. I see Nerd Report saying, wasn't event promoted for months before? I believe so. I'm not. I got to be honest. I'll just be real with everybody in chat right now. I'm not even sure what. It's like a fan expo, I think, in like Salt Lake City. I know very little about it. Another thing that is worth talking about is how these guys have been doing a lot of these things together, right? They showed up at the Children's Hospital, and by the way, so hilarious, so ironically hilarious, and the Reddit's reaction to it is so great because, of course, Anakin Skywalker kills all the younglings, right? And so the quality of memes that were made because Ian McDiarmid and Anakin Skywalker go to Children's Hospital. I mean, that's gold.
Man.
That is pretty.
Dude,
you know what I mean?
100%.
So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I have always said, oh goodness, sorry about that. I have always said that it just makes sense for Anakin to be in this film. I mean, if they're ending the Skywalker saga, it would just make sense that you have to have the Skywalker that started the whole saga in the film. we've been speculating about this for a long time. I mean, correct, Al? Like, what are your thoughts about this as far as, let's get into the fact that, yeah, he's likely in the film, but we've kind of thought that for a long time, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it just kind of from all the context that we've kind of had from The Force Awakens and Kylo saying he wanted to finish what his grandfather started, him struggling with his pull to the light, the whole journey kind of paralleling to a degree, Ben Solo and Anakin Skywalker and that turn, and then ultimately with the Last Jedi, him kind of going left, but still having that desire to kind of want to be that heir or finish what Vader started. I mean, when you have all of those context clues, it makes total sense that if you're wrapping up the saga, Anakin Skywalker's got to make an appearance somehow or some way, particularly with the fact that we saw him, the Hayden Christensen Force Ghost, with the remake when they did the special edition, of course, of the original trilogy. They are definitely going to take advantage of that, and I definitely see him showing up, and I honestly don't see any way that you could wrap up the saga and not have him make an appearance.
Yeah, dude, like for real. We've been talking about this for a long time. Like we've just been like, look, if it's the end of the Skywalker saga, because I've always thought like this, like how do you? One of the problems potentially with saying that you're going to end the Skywalker saga is like first of all, there's only one Skywalker, well, two Skywalkers alive when you start Episode 9. The story itself is really revolved around Ben Solo and Rey, though technically Ben is of the Skywalker bloodline. He is not a Skywalker. And so it's tough to be like, okay, so I ever since I heard those words, the end of the Skywalker saga, I've tried to conceptualize how could that work? What does that mean? Well, one of the ways I've always pointed to is you actually end the Skywalker saga by going back. You go back and you give more of an explanation. I think particularly the explanation of Anakin's Force birth, maybe more of a perspective on what the Chosen One prophecy actually means. I think these are ways that you sort of go back, but you also can kind of tie up or finalize or finish the Skywalker saga. So, like, it's always made sense to me that Anakin should be in this film. I want to bring something up to you, Al, that I think will kind of blow your mind, and I want to get your opinion on this. You know that shot in the it's in one of the trailers, and you see Vader's helmet in that white room for just like a little bit. You know what shot I'm talking about?
Yes.
So somebody pointed out, it was either on Twitter or Reddit, that if you look at that shot, it really looks like it's actually being destroyed. That Vader's helmet is actually in some kind of like almost like a trash compactor kind of thing, right? And that the trash compactor, that Kylo in this scene is actually destroying the helmet. So I want to get your thoughts. For a long time here, it seems like Ben Solo has been communing with Vader, or perhaps just seeing visions of Vader via the helmet. But do you think it's possible that an Anakin Skywalker scene between Ben Solo and Anakin could actually have something to do with why he's destroying Vader's helmet?
Yeah, it definitely could. I mean, that's not where my mind first went, but I definitely think that's what a possibility for why he'd end up kind of destroying Vader's helmet is if he ends up having an exchange with Anakin Skywalker's Force Ghost itself. The one thing that I thought about though was kind of tying it into some of the leaks that we've heard about, and maybe him doing that after he's come in contact with Palpatine and realizing that Palpatine was the one kind of pulling the strings from the beginning. Maybe Palpatine reveals to him that he was actually the one communing to him through Vader's helmet. And so then he kind of destroys it from that point.
Love it.
And it's like, and that begins to kind of make him question, well, what really have I been chasing after? What is it that I'm really trying to be? And so that was where my mind went with it, but I could see it going either way, dude. Yeah. Either way. And I didn't think of or see that scene in that way, but I'm definitely going to go back and watch it and kind of try and check that out.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, like, the thing is, I don't know if we can tell for sure, but it kind of makes sense. And I love what you're saying, too, about Palpatine and him learning more about Palpatine and, what Vader was actually going through. I think that as a fan and just my like headcanon understanding of what was going on was there's no way he's actually communing with Darth Vader. Like there's just no way that's happening because Anakin is not only redeemed, but is a Force ghost at the end. And the old explanation, like the EU explanation, was that Obi-Wan actually shows up in like a very short period of time, and Anakin, who is like barely alive at that point, gets the lessons on how to become a Force ghost. That was the old explanation in the EU. That like basically
Gotcha.
Obi-Wan shows up. He's like, welcome back, essentially. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. And then teaches him how to be a Force ghost. So ultimately, it never made sense to me that Kylo was actually convening with Vader. I
Right.
know there's a lot of people on this train that perhaps Palpatine's spirit is in Vader's helmet, and through manipulation, Snoke or Palpatine or both kind of working in tandem were sort of manipulating Ben into believing that he was communing with Darth Vader. And I really like that a lot. But what I think is, wouldn't it be interesting here if he has a moment with Anakin, if Ben actually speaks to Anakin? Because I think one of the biggest gaps here in the character of Kylo Ren or Ben Solo is that for some reason, the way he views Vader is that Vader was this just crazy, infamous, powerful being worth being. Wow, that's a weird way to put it. But he wants to be Vader, and he sees the momentary lapse, the redemption, as weakness, right? And so you see this in Ben's character a lot. I think one of the reasons he's killing Han is because he's trying to prove that he won't make that mistake. He won't make the mistake that his grandfather made. And it constantly is framed through this lens. Even when he's talking to the helmet, I feel it again, the pull to the light side. Show me the draw. He has this concept that Darth Vader was the real authentic being, and that the Anakin Skywalker was this weak thing that needed to be destroyed, right? I think if he were to actually be able to speak to his grandfather would like tell him how wrong he is, and also how wrong the Anakin was for so long, and how manipulated. And I feel like there's a lot there that Ben can relate to when it comes to Snoke, right? So I've just rambled for a little bit, but what do you think about some of that? Do you think there's possible that a conversation maybe there allows Ben to make this realization, and he sort of goes away from all of that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I certainly do. And honestly, for me, I see it as a possibility, but I see Kylo's arc kind of in 9. I really think they're going to double down, or I kind of see it from the standpoint of him kind of doubling down on the dark, and they're really promoting this idea of balance. That at the end of the movie, there's going to be this possible redemption of Ben Solo, but I think it's going to be kind of in the context of him maybe not necessarily fully letting go of that Kylo Ren or that dark side kind of energy. For example, it's really weird, but it's like I see them kind of. I feel like they're going to kind of take it in that direction, and because of that, I don't feel like it'll be the conversation. Or put it this way, if we do get this conversation with him and Anakin, then that's going to come right at the towards the very end of the movie, like the last act.
Yeah.
That'll be when we get that scene, because I think that he's going to or JJ is going to tease Kylo's staying dark side for the entire movie, and his turn is going to be kind of left as one of those last things. I think we're going to see him and Rey kind of teaming up to work together, but he's going to be doing it from the standpoint of kind of what he said in episode 8 about letting the past die, the Jedi, the Sith, all of it. So he'll be kind of hell bent on destroying Palpatine because he's trying to get rid of the past. And then maybe somewhere in his journey to do that, he ends up kind of coming to this moment where he faces Anakin, or he meets Anakin, and he kind of breaks it down to him.
Ooh, I like that, and I'm actually kind of torn here, because part of what I like about like Rey and Kylo's connection is that I do think it can represent the dark side and the light side coming together in a very natural, balanced way to fight against what I would consider to be pretty unnatural evil. So I've kind of always been on this thing, and I try to explain to people that like Sidious is this unnatural evil. So even the dark side itself, like the dark side is necessary, and there's always powerful darkness, powerful light. This seems to be something that Disney is hell-bent on getting people to understand. And I think one of the reasons I've liked how these two characters, their destiny is intertwined in some way, is because the Cosmic Force is essentially fighting against something that it feels is a threat, and that would be Palpatine, because Palpatine is so strong. He is so unnaturally powerful. And we get these bits in the Tarkin novel where he says things like he wants to reshape reality. And you're sitting there as at least I sit there as a Star Wars fan. I'm like, what the hell does that mean? You know what I mean? Like, he wants to reshape reality. Like, what's going on? But I can kind of frame it through this idea that he's unnatural evil, and Kylo, although he is on the dark side, is more natural as far as that whole equation goes. But I don't know. So I can see that, but I've also seen things in the leaks and different things that sort of say that by the time the final battle happens, that it will more or less be Ben Solo's and not Kylo Ren that joins Rey to fight against Palpatine, right?
Okay.
So, we heard about that scene in the leaks where they talk about how he will, his father will show up, right? And you got to be like, yo, how the hell would Han Solo show up?
Right.
Well, I'll tell you one way is Anakin Skywalker happens to be a Force Jesus. He could potentially be so strong that he actually brings Ben's own father back from the Nether, and like through Anakin, almost anything's possible, right? So what if Anakin, that scene that we keep hearing that's really confusing, where it's like, yo, this guy is gonna sit and talk to Force Ghost Harrison Ford. Well, how would that be possible? Well, it's Anakin. Anakin shows up. They have a little dialogue, and then Anakin says there's someone else that wants to speak to you, and then bam, he brings Han Solo back. What would you think about that? Just give me your raw thoughts, dude. What would you think about that?
Dude, part of me wants to say I would stand up and walk out, but then there's part of me that would be like, that'd be the dopest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I know, right?
Just to see Anakin be like, you know what? Wait a minute. And like you see Han come walking back, dude, I'd be done. I would love it and hate it all at the same time. But it would be perfect. It would be so perfect, because for me, if you're going to end the Skywalker saga, pull out all the stops.
Yeah.
Do everything. Give me all of the ideas. Put everything out on the table. Let's leave nothing off. Like I'm like, let's go.
Yeah. Dude, I'm with you, because I am conflicted about it as well, right? Like I'm a little bit conflicted. That can't be the real Mark Fernandez in the chat, right? Either way, what's up, Mark? Yeah, dude. There's a lot in this movie that borders on that, like, ooh, but also like I kind of like it. You know what I mean? I think just in general, Palpatine coming back in general is already super wild. So, like in my mind, like if they're bringing down, or if they're bringing back Palpatine, then there's really nothing that's off the table. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that was unthinkable. That was going into the saga. That's unthinkable. And I know there's a lot of people that get concerned about how this affects Anakin's legacy, right? And I've seen this before, right? I've seen people bring this up and talk to me about it. Somebody, I forget, there was like an Instagram post or somebody was really into this idea, right? So I think there's multiple ways that Anakin can still be the chosen one, still bring balance to the Force. And believe it or not, it is actually by him actually showing up, by Anakin actually being in this movie, and perhaps helping Ben to actually defeat Sidious for the last time. By extension, that is, in a way, from a certain point of view, if you will, how Anakin could still be fulfilling the prophecy even in Episode 9. What do you think of that?
Yes. I think, to me, that would be the ultimate way to kind of end it all, is having Anakin come back and kind of play a role in tying the whole thing together and literally Kylo Ren / Ben Solo literally helping to finish what his grandfather started, not in the sense of, rebuilding the empire, but in the sense of he started the ultimate destruction of Palpatine when he threw him over the rail
Yeah.
and we thought he was gone.
Yeah.
And now it's like, you know what? Nope, we've got to go knock this dude out for a final time. Let's go get it.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that concept.
Yeah,
That'd be super crazy.
I'm kind of into it, man. I gotta be honest, I'm kind of into it. So, a lot of excitement, guys. A lot of craziness, dude. I mean, like, honestly, it seems like they're throwing everything but the kitchen sink at this movie.
Yes.
But if this is going to be their end game, right? If this is going to be their thing, why not, dude? Shoot for the fences. Go at it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm all about it. Yo, Mark, I think you're memeing, dude. I think you're memeing, bro. I don't think that's really Mark Fernandez. But if it is, hit me up on Twitter because I'd love to do some content with you. But anyways, guys, let us know in chat and let us know in the comment section if you're watching this on the replay. What do you think about this craziness? The possibility that Anakin Skywalker will indeed be in Episode 9. I think it's brilliant. But Al, that's not all. We've got some other crazy news. And if you thought the chat was contentious before now, just wait until we bring this shit up. This is going to be hilarious. So, guys, try to be on your best behavior, but I know you won't. But I will turn this car around. Okay. Al, it's being reported out there that Rian Johnson's trilogy, which a lot of people thought was either canceled or sort of moved to the back burner because there are only on the books 3 Star Wars movies that we will be getting in the next 9 years. And a lot of different reports had suggested that those movies are going to be Old Republic, the Dan and Dave movies. This is corroborated by Bob Iger coming out and telling the shareholders that that was indeed going to be the next Star Wars movies, that the next movies are going to be the Dan and Dave movies. However, new reports suggest that not only is the Rian Johnson trilogy a go, but that the Rian Johnson trilogy will actually take place after Episode 9 and in the canon timeline will continue in some ways the story of the entire galaxy that has been told so far in the 9 saga movies. So the first thing I want to ask from you, sir, is your gut, raw reaction to the news that Rian Johnson's trilogy is still a go. What do you think about that?
You ready for this, Josh?
I'm ready.
You ready?
Oh,
let's do it.
Okay.
I'm down with it. And I'll tell you why. So for me, all of the things that I absolutely detested about The Last Jedi all had to do with specifically the way he treated kind of legacy characters and the fandom in general.
Okay.
So, and it wasn't a decision problem. And we've talked about this. It wasn't really a decision problem. It was more of an execution thing.
Yes.
I understood. I loved Luke's arc. I just didn't like the way it was portrayed on film. I loved kind of the overall theme and what he was trying to do with the Rose character. I just don't think it was portrayed the best through, her development throughout the story. But on the flip side of that, the overall concept of, you not having to come from a place of importance or lineage in order to be really strong with the Force. I love that idea because that opens up Star Wars going forward to tell all kinds of stories. It opens it up to where we can be introduced to another light side group that may not necessarily be Jedi. Sure. We can see another dark side group that may not necessarily be the Sith. And so I think, giving Rian Johnson that kind of a place and that kind of a space to play around with him not being confined to a previous work, dude, I think he would still come out with a badass movie being given that ability to play within the Star Wars universe. Yeah. So for me, I'm like, I would much rather put it this way. I would much rather see him doing something after this than having anything to do with anything old Republic related.
Okay.
Don't touch that stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Good answer. It's a very reasonable. Are you ready for mine?
No! Let's see.
No! Oh my God. I can't believe they
I
would.
knew it.
I can't believe they would do this. Now, here's what's very interesting about this. I actually like The Last Jedi. And it's a funny conversation. I talked to a lot of different people about this situation. I like The Last Jedi. Let me tell you what I don't like. I don't like where the Star Wars fan base is at right now. I don't like where the Star Wars brand is at right now.
Facts.
I continue to stand by what I have always said, and that is that there's a multitude of complex problems that arose from The Last Jedi. But the bottom line is, it's not necessarily Rian's fault. It is they hired Rian to make a Rian Johnson movie. I think we've said this before, but I think he Rian Johnsoned the shit out of that movie. Like it's the most Rian Johnson-y thing I've ever seen in Star Wars, and that's for 100% sure. Even as someone that enjoys the film, and there's a lot of things I don't like about the movie, but I don't know if there's any Star Wars movie other than maybe Rogue One and Empire that I literally love every single thing that's in the movie. Like there's just always little things that I don't like in a movie. That's just Star Wars to me, right? So I like The Last Jedi, but I honestly just can't believe, and I still don't believe, by the way, I still don't believe these reports. Now, what I think Disney will do is like, so if they don't have Rian involved with Star Wars moving forward, it looks bad, right? It looks like they're sort of bowing to the fan base out there, right? Bowing to the haters, whatever you want to say. So I think they will find a way to have him involved, perhaps with the Dan and Dave trilogy and, things like that, right? And I do agree with you that this guy is, first of all, he's an amazing filmmaker. I can't wait to see Knives Out. I've loved Brick. I love Looper. I love Rian Johnson's stuff. His episodes in Breaking Bad, amazing. That Fly episode, like, get out of here, dude. This is ridiculous, dude. The dude's ridiculous. And I agree with you that him getting away from legacy stuff, getting away from stuff that people are just so attached to that it'd be difficult for anyone to do great Star Wars stuff with those characters. That if you set him to go do his own stuff over here, it could be brilliant, it could be exciting, it could be fresh, it could be a lot of things that the Star Wars fan base needs right now. But the problem is, this is the guy that did The Last Jedi. And I just can't wrap my head around how Lucasfilm and Disney would take this guy and put him in charge of more movies within this universe. I just can't wrap my head around it. Look, I will probably enjoy these films because I like The Last Jedi, I like Rian a lot. I'll probably enjoy them. But I just simply can't believe that Disney would do something like this. So what I'm telling you guys, and this is just my opinion here, you know what I mean? Like, you know what they say, if you talk about Star Wars on the internet, you better look good on wood because they gonna crucify you, bro, one way or another. So what I'm telling all you freaking Romans out there is, I'm not a fan. I can't imagine that it's actually true. I think that at this point, Rian will continue to answer questions in interviews saying that he's working on his film because technically he probably is. I think Disney and Lucasfilm probably hasn't figured out the optics of what they want to do with him. And therefore, what we have to go on is the fact that the trilogy is greenlit and that he's working on it. So I almost think it's a non-story. But let's get into another aspect of this, okay? Let's get into another aspect of this. Because beyond Rian being attached to these movies or not, I find it incredibly interesting that Star Wars might choose to continue the story, to not go back to the Old Republic, but instead to look forward to some crazy story past Episode 9. So I want to get your thoughts, sir, on what, are you excited? Like, what do you think about this, that they might now continue this story?
I like that idea. I'm not going to say I love it necessarily because I think that's going to depend on where we end up at the end of Episode 9. I mean, if you're going to put a definitive end cap on it, then I almost feel like leave this era alone, go somewhere way down the line. Let's go way down the line. I think you had mentioned that once before, and that kind of stuck with me after kind of thinking of where I wanted to see the movies go after we finish with 9. But if you're not going to do that, if you're going to do that, then or one of the things that I'm thinking is maybe they're going to use those big, the big movies and to do things after to keep the timeline going, and then we'll have Disney Plus to explore Old Republic, because maybe those shows or maybe that content is going to be formatted so that they can do more long form and kind of develop those stories and kind of build characters from there. And I'd actually prefer to see it in that type of a form if you're going to go back and cover the Old Republic, because you can give it more context. So then maybe they put these newer movies out to kind of as kind of their big event things, and then we kind of grow those from there. But I could totally see that being kind of their thought process. If that's not their thought process and they're just not going to deal with Old Republic at all and just going forward based off of, the Skywalker Saga's conclusion, then are we really ending the saga
Right.
from that
Right.
standpoint?
I mean, that's
like, are we really actually ending it?
well,
then?
I think that's kind of a thing anyways, where a lot of fans are sort of in disbelief that the saga will actually be ended. Like, are they going to end it from a certain point of view, right? Are they going to do the Star Wars thing? Because, and how would fans react to that, right? Like, but that's another discussion. So let's just say with the info that we've got going on, that yes, they will tell these stories past episode 9. I actually am with you on using Disney Plus, but I think they'll flip it. So here's what I think they should do. And this, I think, would be pretty healthy, I think. So if they decided to do the Old Republic trilogy with Dan and Dave on the big screen, which, by the way, I don't think Dan and Dave are actually even going to be directing any of these movies. I think they're producing all the movies. And I think they might even get other writers and stuff like that. And just look for maybe a little bit more representation or something out there with that.
Okay.
But what I think they'll do is they'll put the big budgeted, crazy Old Republic movies on the screen. And meanwhile, they could move Rian Johnson's trilogy to Disney Plus. And a couple of reasons why I think this would be pretty clutch is, number one, it's way less of a risk. Right.
Yeah,
I mean, if Rian, I think like if you're objective about it, you could see where people would say, yeah, Rian would be a big risk. I know there's some people in the chat even now that are like, it's a minority of fans. Like, God bless you for thinking that, seriously. But it's not. And I think that if they put it on Disney Plus, it's less risk averse because there's no box office budget involved, right? Also, Rian is an indie guy. Star Wars was the biggest movie he's ever done, right? And I think that would probably be the case for most directors. But you look at a guy like JJ, this dude's blockbuster, right? Blockbuster. Star Trek, all the way back to Mission Impossible 3. Like, dude, he's a blockbuster guy. Rian is actually better suited for a smaller, more intimate story. So if they want to continue the story, they need Disney Plus content. They don't want to bow to the negative fans and say, yeah, Rian's trilogy is over. If the evidence that we have is that there's only 3 movie slots out there for Star Wars in the next 9 years, and those movie slots, according to Bob Iger himself, belong to the Dan and Dave trilogy, then how does this all fit together? Well, it's pretty simple. Rian's trilogy will likely be on Disney Plus. And if that happens, I'm actually all for that. I know I just said like, no, you know what I mean? I was being kind of memeing a little bit and just being funny. But ultimately, if they put it there, everybody still gets to enjoy it. The haters can watch it in the privacy of their home, and they don't have to tell all their friends. They can sort of closeted check it out, you know what I mean, or whatever.
Right.
It just allows for a lot of interesting opportunities, and it would be less beholden to what was going on in Star Wars in general. So now that I've said that, what do you think about that, Al?
Very good point. I didn't even think about the idea of, the Dan and Dave trilogy and kind of where that factors in, but that makes perfect sense. If you've got the Dan and Dave trilogy kind of slotted already as the next 3 big Star Wars films, then Rian Johnson's would have to almost go to Disney Plus, or maybe, it would have to be that, because I don't see them going to, the Old Republic trilogy and then coming back to revisit, right after or following up immediately after the events of the Rise of Skywalker. I feel like if they were going to continue that story, then they'd want to kind of do that within relative time to the conclusion, to kind of ride that wave. So the best way, like you said, kind of thinking of it from that standpoint, the best way you would be able to do that and kind of mitigate your risk to a degree would be to put those movies or on Disney Plus, and then let the Dan and Dave trilogy and the Old Republic stuff take those box office slots. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I just, I think that that's probably the smart way to go. The
Hmm.
other thing, and this would kind of surprise me, is if they sort of just blended the two trilogies together. If they sort of blended Dan and Dave and had like Dan and Dave and Ryan sort of co-produce, because it just feels so weird. And there's actually a lot of weird talk going on about Dan and Dave in general, because Dan and Dave just signed this massive deal with Netflix. And it's just weird because one of the people they were looking to sign that deal with was Disney. They were actually looking to sign a huge deal with Disney. Same with JJ. It's so weird, right? Like JJ was going to be uh, the guy with Disney and sign that huge bajillion-dollar thing. And now he's with Warner Brothers. And so it's like, you sort of, I don't know how to read those tea leaves, to be completely frank. Like, I just don't know what all of that means. But it's possible that they sort of are trying to leverage Dan and Dave and still do this trilogy without having them too creatively connected to the individual films because of the
Hmm.
backlash from Game of Thrones, right? It's such a Star Wars just can't seem to like get out clean. Like they signed Dan and Dave and they're like, "Yo, this is the bee's knees. Everybody loves Dan and
Hmm.
Dave, right?" And then they look over at the Game of
Then
Thrones
it's
fan.
like womp
Yeah, and the
womp.
Game of Thrones fans are like, "Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me, Disney?" Like,
Right.
yeah. So it's a tough bill. I will say this, guys. We are going to get into Q&A. So start getting those questions ready. Rev up those fingers. Get onto your keyboard and drop some questions. Of course, if you want to drop a super chat and supports the channel, it helps us out quite a bit. We will read every single super chat that comes in. If you don't have any loot, don't worry about it. Seriously, don't worry about it. Just drop your question into the chat. We will get to as many questions as we possibly can. So let's start with a question by Paige Roberts. D&D haven't signed with Disney. So what I was referring to their page is that they were looking to sign a huge exclusive deal with a studio to create content. They ended up signing with Netflix, and whenever they get done with Star Wars or whatever happens with them in Star Wars, they are signed on to exclusively make content for Netflix. JJ did a similar thing. He signed like a $500 million contract to exclusively make content with Warner Brothers. But of course, he's already signed on to do Star Wars Episode 9. He's not just going to walk away from that movie, right? So they're going to finish that up and then go from there. Let's get into this super chat from Trev. Blend Ryan's trilogy and the Solo trilogy. Small, intimate movies incorporate some of Ryan's ideas into them. What do you think about that, Al? You think that they could do that? Blend Ryan's trilogy into the Solo trilogy?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on kind of how they develop Crimson Dawn, I think, and where that goes, where that storyline goes. Does it then ultimately end up kind of getting wrapped up in this trilogy or in this saga, or is that something that could continue on? If it could continue on, then maybe you could kind of use Ryan Johnson's ideas and kind of sprinkle in a continuation of that line and kind of following those characters and seeing where they ultimately end up. I mean, we know where, ultimately Han Solo and Chewbacca will end up, but for all of those newer characters that were introduced, maybe we follow those and kind of see where that goes from there, and that ties into the grander story going forward.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, I feel you. My personal opinion is they'll probably do that more with around the Obi-Wan series. I kind of
Hmm.
think that it's sort of primed up and ready for that. And Ryan would likely want something fresh and just want something
Yeah.
completely, his own. Um, so yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that. But I don't think that's a bad
Hmm.
question or a bad idea, Trev. So thank you very much for the super chat and the question, man. Let's see here. Let's go to Megan's Pariah Haven Library. Wow, that's an interesting name. Do you think they will continue the Crimson Dawn storyline with Kira and Maul, or Kira a dark side user? I've sort of just answered this. I personally think that it would happen in the Obi-Wan series, and it's very possible that they bring those characters back and do it around that time. I see no reason why they wouldn't. What do you think, Al?
Yeah, I mean, I could totally see them kind of continuing that on. I'd be curious to kind of see them continue it on. I actually liked Solo a lot. I was kind of looking forward to them, if possible, to continue that storyline and kind of seeing where those characters went, particularly Kira and Maul, and understanding a little bit more about that whole situation. But I mean, if they do it, cool. If they don't, then no big deal. It's not something I'm desperately into that way, but I would be totally down if they wanted to kind of continue that, whether that be in a movie or kind of in some kind of episodic way. I'd be down.
Yeah, I mean, I love Maul a lot, and Kira being connected to Maul is really interesting. So it would
Hmm.
be cool to get those answers. So yeah, I would love for that to sort of be continued on in some way. Let's see here. Hey Josh, I had a query regarding the unknown regions of the galaxy. I even asked you on Instagram. I think you missed my text. If you can clear my doubts, I definitely missed it on Instagram. I apologize, but if you could put it in this chat again, what is the question? I'll get to that in just a second. Let's see here from Wayne. What elements from the EU do you think they will use in Episode 9? Go ahead with that one, Al. What do you think? Anything from the EU? You think they're going to put into 9? Dark Empire, perhaps?
The only one that I could really think of off the top would be the idea of Palpatine maybe possessing a clone body that deteriorates like over time.
Yeah.
Just from some of the leaks, the information that we've heard, the whole Matt Smith thing, is he in the movie? Isn't he? How's that going to play out, and how would that tie in if we're going to see Ian McDiarmid actually in the movie? Then where would Matt Smith Palpatine fit in? And so that is one of the elements that I could really see them kind of going down, is maybe borrowing that type of a concept and applying it to how Palpatine was able to survive. But outside of that, there's not anything else that really jumps out at me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think I'm on the same page with you. I think Dark Empire, it really seems like a lot of the leaks are talking about versions of Dark Empire that would play out, and particularly with the clone and Palpatine. Yeah, I really like that kind of stuff. So maybe that. I thought even maybe there was something going on with Mara Jade, that like Kiri Russell's character Zori Bliss could be a version of Mara Jade or something like that. I'm less
Hmm.
on that train nowadays.
Right.
But yeah, there's some really interesting stuff there. Let's see here. We got a super chat from executive producer Alex Lan K. And just so everybody knows right now, first of all, like this stream, I'll know if you did it. I will turn this car around.
Hmm.
Second of all, right after this stream, in fact, before this stream even ends, we are going to start our Twitch stream where we are going to be playing some more Battlefront 2. So if you want to see us whipping around our lightsabers,
Yes.
playing with droids, and having a lot of fun, stay tuned. We'll drop the Twitch link. We'll go live, and Alex is going to join us on that stream as well. So it's going to be very excited. But Alex asks, whose arc are y'all most excited to see play out? I mean, for me, it's pretty easy. That would be Kylo Ren. I need to see where this dude is heads at. And I'm so excited. Like, one of the things I really like about the ending of The Last Jedi is the fact that for once a Skywalker is actually in charge of everything. Ben, despite a lot of his different flaws, and he has a lot of them, he figured it out. He killed the main dude, and he's in charge of everything. That is mind-blowing, almost fan fiction level of craziness. So I need to see how that plays out. But what about you? Whose arc are you most excited to see play out?
I mean, I would go, definitely with Kylo Ren, but since you already went that way, I'm gonna say Rey. I want to see how they end up kind of weaving her into the overall plot. What percentage of that ends up, remaining kind of along the Rey from nowhere angle, and how much of that turns her, if they make her a descendant of Palpatine or something from that sort, then that totally is going to wipe that out, and it's kind of looking that way for sure. But maybe there's a clone angle, maybe there's some way that we don't know yet in terms of how they do that. So I mean, I want to say, really for me, it's more of a 55-45 kind of thing, Kylo versus Rey, but she's right up there. Like, I'm definitely interested to see just how she's wrapped up.
Yep. I mean, I'm excited to see Rey as well. Hux too. I mean, I'm interested to see how Hux plays out. I want to see if they give Boyega any love. I really hope that he has a better. I just really hope for more from that character in this film. Yeah, I'm excited to see all of the different characters play out. But yeah, it's definitely Kylo for me. Let's go to this one from executive producer Rian H. Did we go over the We Got This Covered article about the reshoots that are currently happening and the struggle they seem to be having appeasing all audiences? So I did see that article pop up. We haven't talked about it. I don't even think I mentioned anything to you about this. Did I, Al?
No, this is news to me.
Yeah, so I mean, We Got This Covered, so you got to take it with a huge grain of salt. They're essentially just fishing for clicks. I need to see another source even confirm that they're doing reshoots before I would even believe that. But I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, really the way I think of it is this film's probably super hard. This is a really hard movie to make. You know what I mean? This is a really hard movie to make. There's so many different expectations and things going on. It wouldn't surprise me at all if JJ is doing reshoots again, just to fine tune some things and things that he didn't think were working out in the best way. Doesn't shock me, doesn't worry me at all.
Sure.
But yeah, what do you think, Al?
Yeah. I mean, that would be news to me. Like I said, I haven't heard about any reshoots, but if they were happening, I might be a little concerned just considering where we are, kind of where in the timeline and how close we are to the movie coming out. But I mean, I'm sure that they, this is kind of par for the course for Hollywood. They usually have these kind of things worked out, but it doesn't really worry me. I don't think it would be a situation where they're going to be totally, restructuring any aspect of the movie. I think pretty much that's going to be nailed down and cemented. Maybe it's tweaking kind of the way certain things are presented on film or through on the movie throughout the course of it or something like that. But yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? I mean, it could turn into more of a story. We just have to keep our eye on it. But yeah, it's a really tough movie, man. Dude, props to JJ. By the way, I just want to mention this is because I think it's crazy. Remember when before The Last Jedi came out, we found out Trevorrow wasn't going to do the next one. And we were like, oh, man, okay, whatever. And actually, at the time, I was like, good. I don't like Trevorrow. And then we were like, why isn't Rian doing it? And then we heard that JJ was doing it. And everybody got all bummed. Remember that? Everyone was like, oh, man. Jar Jar Abrams doing episode 9, and now we're all like, "Thank God!" Like, you know,
man.
It's just funny.
Seriously,
it's funny how things happen.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
Strange days.
Yeah, definitely strange things. So let's see here. I want to try to get to Yarwar Bot's question about the unknown regions. I saw your questions, and I know that it was like kind of in depth and long. But basically, what I think you're asking is, why are the unknown regions unknown? And why, with all the advanced technology, can't they just figure it out and map it? Well, I mean, there's two reasons. Number one is because it's just fantasy. You know what I mean? But the in-canon explanation is that the unknown regions is like unstable space. So much like in the early parts of discovering places within the world, there were voyages out there. Like the reason like the Magellan's voyage and everything was so crazy is because, dude, it's really hard to sail around the world. There's really treacherous parts that are very hard to pass as a ship. And it's the same thing in the unknown regions. The unknown regions, like those weird, creepy aliens that Snoke had in his throne room, those aliens have some kind of ability to see the hyperspace lanes in the unknown regions and to navigate through the hyperspace lanes. Because if you got to think about it like this, it's basically like if you take a ship out there into the unknown regions, using the technology that we have for traversing throughout space that like we have in our galaxy, it just wouldn't work. It's just not going to work. And we know this because actually in the newest Thrawn novel, which is fantastic and I recommend everybody reading, if you read in that book, there's these Chiss. The young Chiss girls are very force sensitive. And the Chiss girls, with their force sensitivity, what they are primarily used for in the Chiss higher ascendancy is to help navigate through the unknown regions. So even the Chiss, who literally live in the unknown regions, they utilize organic beings and the connection to the Force to navigate through the unknown regions. So the basic explanation is that it's treacherous out there. Your ships will be destroyed. You'll die. It's just really rough out there. So yeah, that's the explanation. But let us see here. Let's do a couple more questions, Al, and then we'll get fired up for some mother flipping Battlefront 2, baby.
You know it.
Oh my God, Real Man London. I can't read that, man. It's hilarious, but I can't read that. Let's see here. Do you think we will see the sequel trilogy characters in future movies? I'll tell you what. I had a conversation with Al about this, and I was dead set. You remember this, Al?
Yes, I do.
Dead set on nope. Never.
Yep.
I was like, nope, never. But now, I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
You know, we're hearing these things about the new trilogy and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm not so sure. What do you think? You think we'll see these characters again?
Yeah, it's like you said, when we had that conversation, man, I was like, I could totally see where you're coming from, but I'm like, Disney's just not going to let it go, man. They're going to try to find a way. I mean, as much as they invested in these characters and this story and kind of banking their money on this trilogy, they're going to want to make sure that this thing kind of lives on and continues on, dude. So I think I'll say this: I don't think we'll get all of 3 or 4 of the main characters back or their stories. I think we're probably going to get maybe 1 or 2 going forward, if that. But yeah, that's another thing that we haven't gotten into yet, and I can't wait to start talking about is what's the death count going to be in this movie? And I'm talking I'm talking, I'm talking both sides of it, just body count and how many of our key characters, our favorites from old trilogy all the way through sequel trilogy, are we going to be not bidding goodbye to by the end of this movie, man? I think that count's going to be higher than we think.
Yeah, you might be right. Like a couple billion Sith stormtroopers
right.
just get destroyed or some shit. Yeah, it would be crazy.
Right.
You know what else too? I want you guys to lean in to your smartphone. I know you got it in the baggie and you're in the shower right now. I get it. Lean a little closer, okay? Come. I want you to record this. This is one of those moments that we're going to have to clip and put out on social media later and just be like, dude, what is this crazy force power that Josh has where you can see the future? This is what's going to happen. I want you guys to imagine Kylo Ren in all white robes. All white robes, something akin to what we see Ahsoka wearing in the epilogue of Star Wars Rebels. And he's got a lightsaber with a golden blade, okay? I want you to keep that image in your head because if we do get characters in the future, in the next episodes, in the continuation of the story, I am telling you right now, there will be a Ben Solo with a golden lightsaber wearing white cloaks. Don't even ask me how I know it. Okay, now let's get into some questions. Salih Alexander with the $4 super chat. By the way, I hope you're doing well, Salih. If Ryan J gets episodes 10 through 12, time after 9, Broom Boy, ? Al, take that one, man. What do you think? Broom Boy trilogy or what?
I say not a trilogy. Give Broom Boy a Disney Plus show. Let's get a Broom Boy Disney Plus show. Why not?
Why not?
Let's get the story of this poor kid and how he was able to use his force ability to become the murderous, darkest, sickest villain we've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like totally flip it and just turn this kid into like pure evil as an adult.
Yeah.
That'd be hilarious.
You know, it's so funny. You're on the same page as me because here's my opinion. Here's what you do with Broom Boy. You make him a Deadpool fourth wall breaking character. And he literally is talking to the audience about how he thought it was all gravy. And then he realized later that he was a part of one of the worst sequences within one of the most hated Star Wars movies of all time. He can't help it. He's a little slave boy on Canto Bite. He can't help it. And all of a sudden Canto Bite's the worst part of The Last Jedi, unanimously despised by even people that like the movie. And then Broom Boy snaps and he goes totally dark side and he starts flying around the galaxy just trying to cut off the heads of as many characters that people love as possible.
Yes.
That's it.
Yes.
That's how you do it. Disney, give me a call. Okay. Flick Talk coming in hot with the super chat. Snoke's origin could easily be explained in 20 seconds. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Flick Talk. I totally agree with that. Perhaps there's some context there that I'm missing. But yeah, no, I agree. What do you think about Snoke? You think we're getting some Snoke in Star Wars Episode 9?
Yeah, I was going to say that was actually my dark horse for, characters who we want to see there, we're most excited to see wrapped up. I'm definitely looking forward to how they explain Snoke, and they better explain Snoke.
Yeah.
Because if not, that is going to be one of the biggest WTFs in Star Wars history, in my opinion.
Yeah, they've got to, dude.
They've got to give us context, and I'm confident they will. I really think that JJ, they're going to wrap that up, and it's going to make total sense. It's going to flow right into the whole situation with Palpatine and all that good stuff. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see that, and I'm pretty sure they're going to give us an explanation for exactly who he is and what his role in this entire thing's been.
Yeah, and my whole thing, and I've sort of been on this train for a while, but my whole thing is it would make the most sense. I think it'd be the most obvious answer that he is connected to Palpatine, and that this dude like in some way, like basically he is acting out the command of Palpatine. And the current train that I am on is that this dude was trying to kill Skywalker. That the whole thing here was, we got to kill Luke Skywalker. You know what I mean? Like basically, if you think about it, because I've seen a lot of people be online and be like, well, wait a minute, why now? Right? If Palpatine's always been around, or if he's been alive, like, why now? Why would he choose now? And my explanation, the thing that I always go back to is, dude, what's the one thing that Snoke is hell bent on doing for the first 2 movies? It's destroying Palpatine. And or sorry, destroying Skywalker.
Skywalker.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And what happens at the end of Episode 8? Luke Skywalker goes bye-bye, right? So how all of that connects, I think, will be explained. And I'm personally of the mind that, yeah, that's going to be how they do it, man. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. I think that's a pretty safe bet for that one. Let's see here. Let's get into one more question here. Okay. What if Palpatine's body was taken over by Plagueis when he killed him in his sleep and has been Plagueis all along? Holy crap, Josh Supreme. It's pretty mind-blowing. I'll take this one, man. What do you think? Has this been Plagueis the whole time?
If you just short-circuited my brain for a minute, man. I'm like, whoa. Didn't even think about that one. But if that were the case, yeah, wow. That'd be really ballsy on Disney's part. That'd be really, I don't know if that would really, I don't know how that would necessarily jive with fans, but yeah, that'd be pretty wild.
Yeah, that would be no lie, pretty freaking wild, dude. I would like it. I think it's one of those things that's like it's a little too wild, particularly because we really think that Palpatine is going to be just so important. If he possibly created Anakin, you know what I mean? And now we're at the end of it, and maybe he created Rey, or maybe Rey's related to him, or whatever way they're going to do it. The fact that he's always been the villain, the fact that he returns, I think it just kind of ties in together. I mean, Plagueis is sort of a last-second name drop that is cool, and I love that Plagueis novel by James Luceno, but I just think that's too wild. It's almost already too wild. You know what I mean? It's almost already too wild. And guys, please join us on Twitch, where we are already live streaming. Click that link, son, and get over there to the Twitch where me and Al Schuler are about to show you guys how we do. So click that, come join us over on Twitch. But we'll still continue both streams for a little bit here. But yeah, dude, that's such a wild idea. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. Like, if they pulled that one out, that would just, I mean, I would just literally brain melting in the theater, sitting there trying to understand what it is I'm watching.
Yeah. And
that would just be crazy, man. Straight crazy.
Trev says it's been Bane the whole time. Yeah, that would be even more nuts, dude. Now you're really drawing it out, really stretching. That would be pretty wild. I think there could be something with Plagueis in Episode 9. You know what I mean? Like, I think that could definitely be. But I don't know if I can agree that they would bring him in that way. I will say that there could still be something to the Rey's staff. So let's dip in a little bit. Let's dig in a little bit here. You know, there's this Plagueis thing going on. It's kind of a cool idea. So what if, because we know that there's going to be a connection. Well, we don't know, but we think currently that there will be a connection between Palpatine and Rey explored in Episode 9. A lot of people brought up immediately when seeing the Force Awakens trailers and different things like that, if that staff that she has looks a heck of a lot like Plagueis' staff from the old EU. Now, what if it is Plagueis' staff? And what if that double-sided dope saber that we see Darkseid Rey use is in that staff? And what if that is all, like, that staff that she just always has on her, right? She's always got that staff. That was given to her by her dear old grandfather, Palpatine. Al, what do you think of that?
Dude, man, you're setting the bar way high, Josh. You're setting the bar high, man. We're gonna get in the movie and get none of this and be like, what the hell did we just watch? Dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, if that, I mean, like that just it's basically exactly what I would love for this movie to be. Give me an overabundance of references, callbacks, just things that, Easter eggs. Give me all of it. Give me 3.5 hours. Yes, I want 3.5
I do
hours
too.
of this crazy, crazy Star Wars, just overabundance of goodness. That's exactly what I would want. And if that if the saber ends up being in there and that's Plagueis' staff, and that was given to her by Palpatine, dude, I'm almost willing to say, all right, Disney, I forgive it all.
Yeah.
I forgive it all. Because that would just be that's taking a lot of time to connect a lot of dots, and that's what it should be. I'd love it.
Yeah, definitely, dude. I mean, it's already kind of blowing my mind that we even just came up with that. That's pretty wild.
Dude,
Hey,
seriously.
if you're
Seriously.
watching this on Twitch right now, guys, let me know how's the audio working on Twitch. I remember last week when we went between the streams, there was no audio on the Twitch. I believe I have that sorted out now, so you should be getting audio over there on the Twitch. So we'll go for just a little longer here, and I'm sorry to keep spamming this link, but y'all should be over there on Twitch watching us do our thing. Which, by the way, you can still continue to ask us questions during the Twitch, and in between us destroying either the Rebels or the Empire, we can still answer crazy questions about Star Wars. So if you want to keep the party going, go over there to the Twitch. I mean, is this making sense? Do you realize that I want you to help us out on Twitch? Am I getting through to anyone? Does anyone understand the context of what we're doing here? But anyways, let's get just a couple more questions, and then it's time to play some games, bro. Let's see here. Maybe Smoke was just a rich, eccentric guy that could finance the creation of the First Order. Maybe. It's possible. I still think. Let me ask you this, Al, and I want to know in chat too. Let me know what you guys think. Do you remember one of the first leaks that was talking about this thing that was out there in the unknown regions, where basically the First Order had enslaved a bunch of people from the unknown regions, and they had this forge, very reminiscent of the Star Forge from the old Republic storylines. But it was this thing that was able to make all these amazing ships. Perhaps the Sith fleet itself, possibly created by the Star Forge. Is the Star Forge on the table?
I think so. Considering this crazy, ridiculous fleet that Palpatine's got in this movie at some point, that had to come from somewhere. So I could totally see that out in the unknown regions, you have this Star Forge, and they've just been cranking out all this stuff out there that no one, in the known universe has any idea about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It
man.
would be pretty wild, dude. I mean, I would really like that. I would like for it to be true for a number of different reasons, and it could perhaps explain how the First Order was able to do all the crazy things they were able to do and have all of the things that they have. Let's do one more question, and then we got to get on the sticks, man. We got to get on the sticks.
You know it.
Let's see here. Mark Fernandez says it's so funny when Christian Harloff cried. Bro, you ain't the real Mark Fernandez. I mean, I respect it. It, but bro, you're not the real Mark Fernandez. Get out of here, bro. Huh? Ooh, okay. Yuzong Vong. I mean, that's not really the last question I want to end on. AJ, I totally get you, but I do not think the Yuzong Vong is on the menu. I think that's just a little too wild, a little too Marvel-y, too.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm waiting for one more really great question before we get out of here. Yeah, that's the Twitch. I keep linking it in the chat. So all you guys got to do is click of that link and start watching us over there on the Twitch. Let's see here. One more question. I like you, Josh. Yeah, thanks, man. Do you think Palpatine will be back in his body, and if so, how? Great question. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to end on this one. Do I think Palpatine will be back in his body, and if so, how? Al, you take this one first.
Yeah, I think that we're going to see Palpatine in his body from a certain point of view. I don't think that we're going to see kind of the same Palpatine that we saw from the end of Return of the Jedi. I think that body got blown to pieces.
Mhm.
But I think that his essence, that I mean, I'm really leaning towards. I think this idea of Palpatine kind of having these host bodies, these clones of himself, and I think that's where we're going to see kind of Matt Smith's character come into play. Is that there's Palpatine's been out there kind of just feeding off of these corpses or these bodies, these hosts or something like that, and kind of transmitting his essence or his presence through Snoke or through the helmet and things like that, using kind of his crazy dark force power, but or his dark side power. But yeah, I think that's the way we'll end up seeing him kind of in his body, but not as the 100-and-something-year-old decrepit person that, unless the leaks end up proving to be true, where he's kind of augmented by some kind of machinery or something like that.
Yeah.
Then maybe we could see it that way. But yeah, I think there's going to be some kind of sly way where we'll get that from a certain point of view.
Yeah, I think. I mean, where my head is at with it is, I think he was destroyed physically at Endor. I've even seen some really cool videos where people look. There's this blue flame that comes up from the reactor and like sweeps past Vader and Anakin at that moment. And there's a lot of people saying like, this is the spirit of Palpatine, and it's totally possible because that blue fire is actually used in Star Wars Rebels a couple of different times, and even in Clone Wars, but particularly in Rebels, when Palpatine is over this sort of cauldron and he's performing this sort of witchy magic, there's blue flame that goes into the world between worlds. Palpatine is so strong and knowledgeable within the Force that from afar, he's able to see and interact with Ahsoka Tano and Ezra Bridger when they are inside the world between worlds. And how he does this is with the blue flame. The blue flame extends in there. So something weird's going on there. So what I think is possible, and my personal headcanon here, is that it's also in the poster for episode 9. Good catch, Trev. That blue fire is his spirit, and he is alive in some way. But perhaps whatever that force was out there in the unknown regions, he has to like get there. So he somehow like travels through space and time and like gets out there and is preserved, because there's that line that the Tashu character says to Gallius Rax in the last book of Aftermath. And you and I talked about this. It's actually in a video that Al and I are working on, a very cool video, which you guys are going to really much enjoy, about how indeed Palpatine was always the plan for Star Wars Episode 9. It's a pretty wild video. But in your case, Tashu says to him that Palpatine is out there, and they say something to the effect of his spirit will be brought to flesh anew. So there's something to this idea that his spiritually will come back in some kind of a body. Now, it could be clones, 100%. Perhaps it's clones. Perhaps it's some kind of vessel, a Knight of Ren, Matt Smith or something, is like, hey, take me, or something like that. That could be the case as well. So I think that's a great question, but we got another super chat, so we got to go over this super chat coming in from Red Wolf, and we will finish off this stream, and then Al and I are going to start playing some Battlefront 2. Join us over there if you would like.
Yeah.
Would you guys like to see Luke come back to life in any way, shape, or form? Third act, heroes down, goes quiet, footsteps, Rey looks up, prime Luke starts throwing AT-ATs. I mean, dude, of course, bro. Like, are you kidding me? Like, of course I want that.
Right.
I of course I want that. However, I'm just trying to curb my enthusiasm and my anticipation, because that's probably not going to happen. Now, I do think we're going to get some sweet Force Ghost Luke in this movie. There's even some rumors that he shows up in a fight against Palpatine and something really crazy happens. So it's possible we get some of that flavor. But Al, what do you think? Would you stand up and walk out of the theater if Luke Skywalker comes back in the flesh and starts throwing around ships?
I'd stand up and shed tears of joy at that point. Dude, that's again, you're speaking to my Star Wars fanboy heart here, Red Wolf. You are preaching to the choir, my man. But
Red Wolf,
again,
why
like
you do
Josh
this?
said, man, we got to curb our enthusiasm, because the last thing any of us want is to go into episode 9 expecting the movie that we all dreamed of when we were 12.
Yep.
And then we're like, wait a minute, this is not what we wanted.
Yep.
But no, I think the movie's going to be dope. I don't think we'll see Luke throwing AT-ATs, but if we do, hey, hats off to JJ
Yeah,
and
right?
Lucasfilm, man.
I'll tell you what.
Because they went for it.
I'll make you guys a promise right now. If that happens, I will literally on my phone queue up a live stream in the middle of the theater, and I will live stream to you guys my reaction to that. And I'll just stand up and be like, I can't believe it, and I'll probably be weeping. There'll be people like, sit down, asshole, and I'll be like, fuck
Pretty
you,
much.
and just like streaming, and I'll just be like crying and just be like,
Yes.
So if that happens in the movie, expect that live stream to happen, and I'll get kicked out of the theater.
Seriously,
So
right?
that's how we're gonna do it. But all right, guys, a lot of fun today. Happy Star Wars Sunday to you guys. I'm putting in the Twitch thing one more time. We're already streaming. Click that link and come hang out with us because this stream is over, but we're going to be going for probably an hour and a half, 2 hours more tonight, trying to level up our characters here in Battlefront 2. So, guys, as we always say, we hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and we will see you in the next video. Take care.